there is a small difference. So I want to first make that clear so that we understand what is guilt and what is shame. Okay. So guilt, the emotion of guilt, is a feeling that comes when there is a specific pain or harm that is being caused to you or by you. For example, you may feel guilty. You had an extra, you saw a hungry person on the side of the street. You had
Yeah.
food in your car, and
Tu
that
as vu
person
une
was hungry and begging. And that person wanted the food, and you didn't give him the food that was just sitting in your car. And that person died of starvation. So it is that one incident of you having something that was in excess of what you want, what you need, and someone was in need and you could have saved a life and you didn't give the food. And so you hold on to that emotion, you feel guilty. Oh, that person would not have, I would have just stopped and give him the food that was in my car. Okay, so guilt is an emotion to a particular specific incident in your life. And shame is an emotion which is a general overall emotion. It's a negative emotion of the self that you carry with you. I'm not a good mother. I'm not a good son. I'm not a good daughter. I'm not a good wife. So
Je ne suis pas
this
une bonne mère.
emotion. So does that make any sense? The difference between the two? There is a guilt and there is shame. So now we want to understand, why do people have guilt? And everybody in this world has this emotion of guilt and shame at different degrees, some more and some less. If you don't have any guilt or any feeling of shame, then Western psychology will tell you that you're actually a psychopath. So everyone has guilt and shame is because human beings by nature will make some mistakes. And you'll have emotions of regret that you failed to do something and did not live up to someone's expectation or an expectation of yourself. Okay? So this emotion of shame and guilt is not a bad emotion. It is a necessary emotion, and it is an emotion that everyone has. And it is simply how and what do we do with that emotions. When you make a mistake, that's beautiful.
Quand tu fais une erreur,
Shame and regret is beautiful. The question would be, what have you done to remedy and fix the mistakes that you have made? When you take measures to fix and correct yourself so that the same mistakes are not happening again, right? Then that is a beautiful thing. Now, if you dwell on your mistakes and you beat yourself down, oh, I made a mistake, I'm so bad. And the more you dwell on your mistakes, the bigger the mistake becomes. The longer you hold on to your shame and guilt, it has in your overall life. And if you dwell for a long time, it can even paralyze you. Like you will become a zombie. You won't be able to move and make any decisions in life. Guilt and shame are very beautiful if we process them, and if we don't process them, it can paralyze you. So since all of us have guilt and shame, can I give you 5 steps? And you may want to write this. Step 1 in dealing with shame and guilt is, number 1 is an acknowledgement of the emotion. Acknowledge and not suppress the emotion. Yes, and not only accept that it is there, and you have to see feeling of shame and guilt that is in your life. And unless you acknowledge, then what's going to happen is you're going to push it down, you're going to suppress it. It's a big yoga principle that in the yogi life, you will notice when they make a mistake, they immediately acknowledge the mistake. For example, you're walking and your feet touches somebody. So minute your feet touches someone else's body, then we immediately acknowledge it by touching their body and showing them respect like this. So if anything that is unintentional, then we bring intention back to that unintentional act. So step 2, please keep in mind, step 2 is to understand where is the source of that emotion of guilt and shame coming from. You will notice when you look at the source, there is something that you have done as a mistake and you have not recognized the fact that you have done the mistake. And therefore, you have to find out the source. When did it happen? Why did it happen? How did it happen? And then it becomes your ability to know the exact event that caused that emotion to creep into your life. Does that make sense?
Est-ce que ça fait du sens?
You have to understand the source.
Il faut
If you
comprendre
don't
la
know the source, then it's very difficult. And then the third step is to take responsibility for the mistake that you have made. Yes, I have made a mistake, and I know how I made that mistake, and I know why I made that mistake, and I know circumstances caused me to make that mistake. So you're in complete responsibility. It is all me. It is not Ramananda, it's not Bodhva, it's me. I take ownership and I take full responsibility. Step 3, any doubts? Does it make sense? Because the human mind will say, no, 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 it's not my fault, it's Buddha's fault.
Donc
No, 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 it's not Buddha's fault, it's Michelle. No, no, it's Anandini. No, 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 it's Arjuna. And it's everybody's problem except for me. Have you noticed when something goes wrong, everybody says, no, 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 it wasn't me, it wasn't me, it was someone else. My life is miserable because my husband is such a bad person. This husband did this wife did this, and she wasn't home cooking for me. And so that's why I had to go and eat outside. And finally, I had to leave the country. And, he just is never home because he's always just partying or he's always just working. So we always find everyone else to take the responsibility and not take it ourselves. So does that make sense? Anybody has any doubts? Okay, step 4, very important, is to seek forgiveness. You have to forgive yourself if you are the one to make the mistakes and you have taken full responsibility and you contributed to it, else contributes to it, then you have to go and approach them and beg for forgiveness. Does that make sense? You may notice that guilt and shame is because you have not forgiven yourself for the mistake that you made, because you have not acknowledged it and you have not taken responsibility for it and you refuse to look at it. So you hold on to that shame and guilt and it overpowers you. So forgiveness is very important to the self. And then you forgive the other people that are involved. And the final step, and step number 5, that we see in the yogis is surrender. That everything in this world has a divine plan, and that now you have gone through your processes, you have apologized, you have acknowledged, you have taken responsibility for it, you have begged for forgiveness, now you surrender. Like, I accept whatever the universe brings upon me, I am ready for it. Does that make sense? So step one is acknowledgement of the emotions and the feelings of guilt and shame. Step two is making sure you find the source or the incident or the incidents of where that emotion of guilt and shame came into your life, and own it.
Et,
Step three is to own it, take responsibility for it. Okay? Not blaming anyone else or anything. Step four is forgiveness of the self and others. And step five is surrender. So shame, guilt is an incident in your life, an event in your life. And shame is an overlapping emotion that you carry throughout your life over various emotions,
et la
not
honte,
just one event. And it's a negative feeling, and it could be many contributors, but it's an overall feeling that you have in your life. Many mistakes have made, you didn't resolve it, and it piles up and piles up and piles up, and eventually that emotion becomes the very emotion that dominates throughout your life, and it's consistent, and it's in general the emotion of shame. Because when that guilt is something that you don't address it, and it becomes I don't want to say crusted, but it becomes part of who you are. It defines your character, and that continuous emotion is called shame. You're not in the business of convincing anyone else that they have made a mistake. That's not your business. If you tell a teenager that they have made a mistake, good luck, because you will lose that teenager.
quand
Because
on,
that's not the position that you should be taking, to tell anybody that it is their mistake. So it's very important. It is not their mistake. We have to see how to better deal with other people in life. Not to point out fingers what they did wrong and how they need to fix it.